So, good evening, friends. Meeting again with the practical part of the organon, and we were on the aphorism number 84. We have spent nearly about 3 lectures on aphorism 83, where we have discussed the qualities of the homeopathic physician in order to take the chronic cases, and four important qualities one must born with or one must develop. That is the first is freedom from prejudice. Second is the sound senses. Third one, it is the attention in observation, and fourth is fidelity in tracing the picture of the disease. And we have discussed it in depth with different examples and how this helps us in order to solve the chronic cases that also we have discussed. Right from aphorism 84, he starts the application of the knowledge, all those knowledges, in order to take the chronic case. And we have discussed few sentences out of that in depth. In so when we have to deal with the patient specifically suffering from the chronic disease, first important source is always the patient himself, who will going to give you the data which is necessary for your case taking. Second important person is the attendant, because attendant is the person who will going to give you lot of information. He will narrate what he has heard from the patient. Second important thing, he will going to tell you what he has noticed exactly in the patient. And third important thing, which another thing which explained by him is nothing but how the patient's behavior. All those things are the important things in order to find it out the individuality of the human of that specific patient. And the attendant is one most important thing. And third, but the most important, because he is the special evidence of the cases, is the physician himself, who can observe many things, who can listen many things, who can perceive many things. And that's why for physician, the homeopathic physician who is treating that patient is important source of that case taking. After that, we have to go ahead with this paragraph, aphorism 84. He writes down accurately all that the patient and his friends have told him in the very expressions, underline the word very expressions used by the patient. See, what he is explaining is very important. He writes down accurately all that the patient and his friends have told him in the very expressions. Expressions are individualistic. The tone matters. Yesterday we have discussed how the tone matters, how the expressions matter. The sentences, the symptoms never matters unless they have the individuality of them. So a single sentence can be uttered in a different manner with a different emotion. And because of which the very expressions matters a lot. So when patient just enters in your room and he asks, Doctor, may I come in? Doctor, may I come in? See the difference of tone, the emotions behind that is absolutely different. The man behind those words is different. And that's why Hahnemann says, when you write down whatever the data the patient expresses as well as the attendant tells you, it should be written in the very expressions with which it has been uttered. That guides you towards the individuality of the specific person. And those matters a lot. This is in fact one important study one has to do. It is not one day learning. It's a long time which you have to spend of observing the people, listening the people, observing their expressions, observing their emotions, observing their body language. Everything matters a lot. Everything gives you the individuality. You develop that perception power, and that guides you to get a good individuality of that person. So this is what he expects, and that's why he explains over there. It should be written in the same very expression told by the patient as well as the narrator. Then he explains, keeping silence himself. सगळ्यात महत्वाची गोष्ट. What is very important is keeping silence himself. He should not talk too much. Just put a single question and go on listening. Keeping silence himself, he allows them to say all they have to say. What he's saying, he allows them to say what all they have to say. So whatever the patient is expressing, just ask him to express and don't interrupt. Go on listening, keep the silence, because that will give you a very expression that will give you the individuality of that individual. Because in the first phase, whenever the patient comes in front of you, the way he starts talking is very important, because he was expressing himself during those symptoms. When he is narrating the first few symptoms, he expresses the very expressions, and those defines the individuality of that specific individual. And that's why it is important. Keeping silence himself, he allows them to say all they have to say and refrains from interrupting them. Reference means don't interrupt. Keep him silent, keep him restricted. Don't utter single word. Just listen and listen. So refrains from interrupting them unless they wanders off to the other matter. So don't interrupt the patient. Unless the patient is wandering to any other topic, then and then it is the duty of the homeopathic physician to tell the patient that yes, you just discuss whatever is needed. But most important thing when you are dealing with the patient, if he is talking, if he is saying anything, don't interrupt, because that thought, the train of thought, that is the word which is used by Hahnemann, is very important. Train of thoughts means vicharanchi shrunkala, the thoughts which comes in a specific harmony. And when which patient is narrating, they comes in a specific manner, and during that time you get the individuality of that individual. And this is the habit which you have to develop. You just go and listen to the patient. Don't interrupt unless he wanders off. Just listen what he is narrating, what he is saying. Silence is very important. If patient starts weeping in front of you, keep the silence. That is more important. Don't ask directly, why do you weep? No, you don't interrupt. It is the emotion which is coming out. Sometimes it is the theme which is necessary. The patient has not wept since long time, and he finds it out. You are the good person with whom he can share or she can share. And then that weeping is an outlet for the whatever is saturated inside. So this silence is very important thing in the case taking, in the communication skill. And when you deal with the patient, this is too important to listen. Just observe. And that's why he explains over there, keeping silence himself. He allows them to say all they have to say and refrains from interrupting them unless they wander off to the other matter. The persons who are like lachesis, they goes on wandering from one subject to another subject. The loquacity is like that, you have to stop them. You put a question, what is your problem? And patient starts, and next 1.5 hours, you have to listen. At certain time, you have to interrupt and ask them, now I have understood your case, let us keep quiet. I will ask you something, then you answer. Because certain, this happens with the loquacity, and loquacity which is going wandering from the subject, then it is the time to refrain, to disturb or to stop. Otherwise, don't disturb the patient. This is too important to in the case taking. See, these are all minute details which Hahnemann is expressing. He is giving you all the hints how to go ahead with the case taking. And these are really the hints which are necessary when you deal with the chronic cases. Then what he says, the last sentence of this paragraph is very important. The physician advises them at the beginning of examination to speak slowly. So patient is sitting in front of you, ask him to speak slowly. Why? In order that he may take down in writing the important parts of what the speaker said. So he is going to write down each and every details of the patient. He has to write it down in the very expression. So writing down each and every expression, each and every sentence uttered by the patient, it is rather a difficult task. It is rather it's called time consuming entity. And for that purpose, it is necessary to tell the patient at the start, yet that you speak slowly so that I can write down each and every detail. And that detail, those details are necessary in order to solve your case, to find it to a right remedy. This is very important. If you tell them it at the start, then it definitely works. Then it definitely patient feels yes, doctor is having real interest in my case, and patient starts narrating, and he tells you whole history, he tells you the whole story, and that story is very essential for you to understand his individuality. And for that purpose, all those do's and don'ts he starts explaining over there in this paragraph. So post aphorism related with this chronic case taking means a lot. Lot of things he provides over there. And all those points, one by one should grab, fix it mind, and apply it while taking the care, so that you don't miss anything. So this is related with the aphorism number 84. There is one footnote to this paragraph related with the interruption. And this is very important. The footnote number 81, I think so. Yes, 81. Every interruption breaks the train of thought. Yes, this is the word which I have used. This is the word which is very important. Train of thoughts. Vicharanchi Shrunkala. This is very important. The thoughts that comes in a typical manner. And these are related. One thought is related with next thought, next is related with the earlier thought. And this is the train of thought. Every interruption breaks the train of thought of the narrators, and all that they would have said at first does not again occur to them in the precisely the same manner after that. If the patient is narrating something, and while narrating all those things, if you interrupt, what happens? He loses the thread of thought. He loses the train of thought. And when again you ask what you are telling, and he forgets, yes, doctor, I missed that now. This happens quite commonly. This happens with you also. If I am just talking to you with certain thing, and it is going on, and all of a sudden some interruption happens, immediately that train of thought vanishes. I have to come to that topic again. It becomes rather difficult for me. And that's why Hahnemann explains over there. It is too important that don't interrupt if the patient is narrating, and if the patient is narrating, which is very essential for you to find it out, the individuality of that patient, at that time, it is your duty that don't interrupt that patient, keep the silence and go on listening the thing. These are very, very, very essential things. See, every point he is explaining over there, and every point is very essential for testing. And now he explains few more things in the next aphorism, that is aphorism number 85. See, very minute details he explains. What he says, he begins a fresh line with every new circumstance mentioned by the patient or his friend, so that symptoms shall be all ranged separately one below the other. See, this much he is explaining, that you write down each and every symptom separately. You should not mix it together. So that if you want to add anything under with that symptom, you can write it down at if you have kept the line over there, if you kept the space over there. So every time patient will not going to give all location, the sensation, the modality, the concomitant. He tells you first vaguely, this doctor, I'm having the headache. Specifically, I'm getting headache over here. He has given you location. He has not given you sensation. He has not given you modality. He has not mentioned about the concomitant. So there should be a space when you complete the case taking, you have to ask precisely about all those details. And for that purpose, there should be a space. And he explains over there, this space is needed. And that's why whenever patient explains about new symptom, you write it down on the another line. There should you should keep a space to complete that symptom. Because complete when the symptoms become complete, then it becomes characteristic. Without that, it becomes a vague, it becomes a common. And common symptom never gives you an individuality. Common symptoms always are important only for the diagnostic point of view, but not for therapeutic point of view in homeopathy. And this is what he wants to explain. That when you are dealing with the patient, just when you are write down each and every symptom on a separate line, keep a space over there. And what he further says, he can thus add to anyone that may at first have been related in too vague manner. Vague means which is not characteristic, which is mm, very superficial, which never gives exact details, vague. So in too vague manner, but subsequently more explicitly explained. And this is the tendency of the person. He comes to you and he explains, Doctor, I'm getting fever since yesterday. You don't get anything. You cannot prescribe because if you open the fever chapter, there are thousands of remedies. You cannot come to the conclusion unless he tells you details. So you require space to write down when he starts narrating about that symptom again. After he explains another symptom, doctor, along with that I get a severe headache. So another symptom he has mentioned. But after some time, when he comes, doctor, what has happened actually? Yesterday I went for the ride, and nearly about 100 kilometers I have had ride, and there was a tremendous drop of cold air which was there, and because of which it has started. Now he has given the details about it, the causative modality or causative factor. Then he explains that, doctor, I got exactly at 4 o'clock in the morning, I got very severe chill. I got a rigor. I looked at the mm, watch and it was 4 o'clock. Now you get the time modality. So for that purpose, it is necessary to keep a space. Now you are coming to the conclusion of certain things when the symptom becomes complete, when the symptom becomes characteristic. So if you get such type of modality where patient explains that he is having 4 o'clock the rigor, open your Kent's repertory, find it out, chill, 4 a.m., only remedy, Cedron. So you can come to the conclusion on the basis of that. So this is what is needed, and for that purpose, the first patient narrates always the vague symptom, and then he comes to the precise thing. The concomitant associated with that is headache. That you can add over there. And for that purpose, he explains over there, he can thus add to anyone that may at first be related, must first have been related in a too vague manner, but subsequently more explicitly explained. So these features which are vaguely explained earlier, goes patient goes on explaining in detail later, and those are very essential for your case, for your detailing or for understanding the patient. Those are very important things. See, these minute details he has mentioned regarding the case taking, and those minutes are very essential for you. Then he turns towards the ATC. What he explains regarding the ATC. When the narrators have finished what they would say of their own accord, the physician then revert to each particular symptom and elicit more precise information respecting it in the following manner. He reads over the symptom as they were related to him one by one, and about each of them he inquires for further particulars. So what he is explaining over there? He is explaining over there that First, go on listening. Listening is the first important thing which you have to do. Whenever the patient is explaining or patient is narrating, write down all details until the patient is expressing, just keep on listening and writing down. And once the patient has finished telling you all the things, you ask, do you want to add anything? And patient says, no, that's all. That's all. That's what I want to tell you. Now the role of physician comes again. Now it is his duty to read each and every sentence explained by the patient, again going over symptom by symptom, and to make it fulfill. You know at that time you get the symptoms which are not so clearly mentioned. All symptoms which are written in a vague manner. Patient explains yes, he is having the headache, and he has not mentioned the location, he has not mentioned the sensation, he has not mentioned the modalities. Sometimes you never got the concomitant. It is your duty to ask exactly, and such questions are necessary because patient doesn't have that habit of telling all those details. They have the habit of going towards the allopaths and who doesn't give so much of importance to the symptoms. That's why they are reluctant to tell you all those details. Every patient who comes to a homeopath, those only who knows homeopathy, they will going to give that all those details. But if you don't get such things, it is not possible for you. And that's why it is now a role of physician starts. And what role starts? You start asking the question and precise questions to the patient related with every symptom written over there. So he gives certain examples, what type of questions one can ask. He explains over there, for example, at what period this symptom occurs. Yes, this is very important. Periodicity plays a very, very, very vital role. If you get patient complaints that he is having every weekly he is having the problem, he used to get it only on Saturday. Doctor, I don't know what has happened, but every Saturday I'm getting the headache. He's giving you exactly, yes, it is only the Saturday I used to get headache. And it starts in the morning. So there is no question that something happens in my life and then headache starts. In the morning when I wake up and it starts only on Saturday. You get periodicity. Marked periodicity. If you don't get anything, but at least you get hint that marked periodicity is there and it is too much clear. It happens on the same day. It means that you have to think of a periodicity remedy. And marked periodicity remedy is the China in our methodology. We can think about China in such types of cases. Even Hahnemann mentions over there that if you have certain types of periodic, marked periodic presentation in the patient, China is one of the important remedy one should not forget. So this is, so at what period this symptom occurs? Time modality plays very vital role. Patient comes to you and he is having the 3 p.m. aggravation. You must know which is the remedy which has 3 p.m. aggravation. He explains to you, doctor, it happens every day at 3 o'clock. You must know the puja is the remedy, which is having 3 p.m., 3 a.m. aggravation. Certain patient comes to you and they tell you, doctor, every day I got the headache exactly at 10 o'clock in the morning. And it remains, it increases till noon and then subsides. Again, you get the time modality. Natrum miraticum, very clear cut, 10 to 11 a.m. aggravation. So time modality is a very important thing which defines the individuality. 12 noon or 12 midnight, arsenic album, marked period. 4 to 8 p.m. aggravation, lycopodium. 4 to 9 p.m. aggravation, Helleborus niger. Very important time modalities where you get or here you directly get the individuality. And that's why the first important question is related with the time. Many times patient forgets to tell you certain things because they feel that it might be a superstitious thing. Patient never tells you when regarding the moon phases. They feel that if I will tell such a thing, doctor will laugh at me. There was one case which was not getting settled even after 1 year. The migraine case was there. And one day after 1 year, she entered and she said, Doctor, I want to tell you something, but don't laugh at me. I said, what is wrong with you? She said that, Doctor, every time, whenever there is a new moon and full moon, I get the severe headache. I said, I told her, if you would have told me this 1 year back, you would have not suffered for 1 year back. She said, how can I say? You laughed at me. This, everyone says that this is just a superstition. So such thoughts are there in patient's mind. And that's why the certain questions are very much necessary. If migraine patient is there, always ask them that certain whether they suffer from certain modalities. It is very much necessary because migraine generally get affected during moon phases. So always make a habit of asking this question to the patient suffering from the migraine or certain when it is related with the pregnancy. Always ask related with the moon phases and their relations with that. Second important question which he explains over there, was it previous to taking the medicine he had hitherto been using? See, whatever the patient narrates, ask the patient directly whether this symptom is there before you have started taking any medicine for that, or it is after the medicine does it have started. Because you should know whether they are primary symptoms of the disease or whether they are the secondary symptoms which comes out after the allopathic medication. So that is also one other question which is necessary. The third question which he explains over there, while or whilst taking the medicine, whether you have developed those symptoms while taking the medicine, or only some days after leaving of the medicine, or whether those symptoms are developed, whether after you leave that medicine and thereafter those symptoms have developed. So the question should be very important because that gives you, guides you to find it out the exact reason. What kind of pain, what sensation exactly was it that occurred on this spot? Very important. Sensation plays a very vital role. Sensation is always individualistic. Sensation matters a lot, and sensations are unique. They define the human being. And that's why if the patient has not narrated in proper words, it is your duty to ask exactly what do you feel, what type of sensation is there. Patient doesn't understand this question, then give him a choice whether you get neuralgic pains, whether you get throbbing, but that should be if the patient is not able to answer your question. This is last thing, that is last thing to give them choice. Otherwise, don't give the choice because they select one of them. It should not happen. So that becomes leading question, but this is too important. Sensation is the one important entity which defines the man. So what kind of pain, what sensation exactly was it that occurred on this spot? Where was the precise spot? That is also important. Location is important. Patient comes and he explains that, doctor, I am having very typically the pain over here. Exactly. There is severe heaviness. He defines exact spot. Glabella, pain at glabella. Very important. Calibicromicum. Heaviness in glabella is calibicromicum. Typical sinusitis which develops in calibicromicum is typical glabellar pain. So location is also important entity which defines you directly a remedy many times. And that's why it is too much necessary to ask regarding those things. So where was the precise spot? Did the pain occur in the feet and by itself at various times. See what he says. Did the pain occur in fits or by itself at various times? Whether it is spasmodic, sometimes it comes and then it disappears, and again it comes in certain times. Whether it is having in a typical periodicity, whether it is having very typical spasms, whether it occurs in during specific fits, all those things matters because that guides you towards the understanding of that specific symptom. Or was it continued without intervention? See, what is it? Or was it continued without intermission? Or whether it is continuous pain, whether it is comes and goes. Every detail is important for you to understand what type of pains are there. How long did it last? How much time the pains last? How much time the fever lasts? At what time of the day or night and in what position of the body was it worst and ceased entirely? See, again he explains over there at what time of the day or night. So whether it happens in daytime, whether it happens at night time, whether it specifically happens in daytime at a specific period, because those are individually those gives you the characteristics of the individual and in what position of the body was it worst. So whether there any specific position in which the patient feels aggravated or patient feels better, sees completely, all those matters a lot. So those are very essential things which guides you towards the understanding the patient. The patient who comes to you and he is having a severe asthmatic attack and he suffered because of the cold season nowadays and he comes that doctor, yesterday I had a very severe cough and breathlessness and I feel better when I look like this, I sit like this and I'm feeling better in this position. So which is the remedy which feels better in such position? Anyone, any idea? The only remedy which gives you directly on the basis of that, he feels better by keeping head up. And no one, the remedy is hepar sulfuricum. Hepar sulf, he always feels better when looking head up and keeping the windpipe straight. Then the person feels better. That is the typical of the hepar sulfuricum. So this is very important thing which he explains over there. Was it continued without intervention? How long did it last? At what time of the day or night? And in what position of the body was it worst and ceased entirely? What was the exact nature of this or that event or circumstance mentioned? Described in plain words. Last question is very important. What was the exact nature of this and or that event or circumstance mentioned? So you have to ask how did the thing started? You explain each and every detail. And then patient explains, doctor, what has happened? I want to tell you. Yesterday I was there, I was traveling in a car and the AC was continually going on. And it was not possible for me to ask them to stop the AC. And because of which I started getting a running nose. Thereafter, it became blocked and I started severe headache. See, he is giving you details. It has started from the cold draft. It has started from the cold air. Then it has started running nose. Then it has settled in the sinuses. And then the headache started. It is the heaviness which is there. So all those circumstances guides you to understand the patient. And that's why it is so much necessary to ask about what exact nature of this and that event and circumstances which are there, describe in plain words, because this description guides you towards exact understanding about the patient. So this 86 aphorism, he explains how to complete the symptoms, the inquiry related with the completing the symptom, and those are very, very essential things. So we have learned today the three aphorisms, the 84, where he has asked what to do what not to do. 85, he has explained about exactly how to write down each and every symptom on a fresh line. And in this 86, he explained about which are the precise questions necessary for the completing the each and every symptom. So I think today we'll stop over here. We have just few seconds remaining. Thank you very much for attending sessions. Ask your friends to join this activity and we'll meet tomorrow again. Thank you very much.